Elon Musk's SpaceX has finally developed an insane and new nuclear rocket that has shocked the entire space industry. What is so special about this nuclear rocket? How does it work? Why is the entire space industry shocked? Does this rocket have its own shortcomings? Join me today in this video where we shall explore Elon's nuclear rocket that has shocked the entire space industry. The main goal for SpaceX since it was founded by Elon Musk in 2002 was to revolutionize space exploration. And in the 2 decades of their existence, they seem to have already done a lot more than any other space company, such as the Lockheed and Boeing companies. SpaceX was the first private company to successfully launch rockets to space and return them safely to Earth. This happened in 2008 with the Falcon 1, the earliest of the version of the present-day Falcon 9. Besides that, they were also the very first private company to launch a crewed flight to the International Space Station in May 2020, using the Falcon 9 rocket, a very successful rocket that has so far made numerous successful launches. The payload was the Dragon capsule spacecraft, in which were the 2 NASA astronauts Doug Harley and Robert Behnken. But to attain spaceflight, it hasn't been an easy thing for the American Space Agency, or NASA. Ever since the Apollo mission to the moon of 1972, man has never again set his feet there. Why? The main reasons for the delayed space missions, besides the immense capital required, are the rockets themselves. The chemical rockets have some limitations that is hard to avoid or ignore. All NASA rocket launches to space so far have been powered by chemical energy produced from reacting liquid oxygen with hydrogen. The explosive reaction yields a lot of heat energy, which is used to expand the gaseous byproducts through the nozzle, yielding a thrust. But the high density of the byproduct steam has to some degree limited the power of the rocket. Oxygen, on the other hand, is heavier and comprises the payload. The only seemingly working solution so far, and which has been already adopted, is to infinitely increase the fuel storage tanks. This means if things go this way, we will be experiencing giant rocket sizes in the future whose launches would almost cause the Earth to quake. Could SpaceX already be having a miniature of this in their Falcon Heavy and the Super Heavy rockets? But no, weight and size is not the way to go. A more finer technology must cut off the bulk or redeem it to a useful payload. And the nuclear thermal rocket plans could be on the way to deliver this. But nuclear energy is one source of energy that brings plenty of dark reflections, ever since the world witnessed the unleashing of its power in the World War era. Nonetheless, the majority seem to have already recovered from that. In fact, the US Congress approved a $125 million budget to be channeled towards the development and funding of nuclear thermal propulsion rockets. It was a move the SpaceX CEO Elon Musk hailed. This is what he said: "Nuclear thermal rockets would be a great area of research for NASA." The CEO also went on to dismiss the fear of nuclear in the minds of people by encouraging the European governments to generate more nuclear power to leverage the ongoing fuel crisis resulting from the Ukrainian war. He even offered to eat food grown in the radioactive areas. This is what he said: "I would travel and to eat locally grown food on TV." He added that nuclear is vastly better for global warming than burning hydrocarbons for energy. But first, how does a nuclear thermal rocket even work? Before the infamous American scientist Albert Einstein arrived at the first formulae to split the atom, with the mysterious equation E = mc squared, the immense energy store in the atom remained untapped. In an element, there are 3 subatomic particles known as the electrons, protons, and neutrons. The electrons revolve around the nucleus, which is made up of the 2 other subatoms, the proton and the neutron. During any chemical reaction such as that in the Falcon 9 engines where liquid oxygen is reacted with hydrogen, the electrons alone are involved in the reaction. The result is either an addition or subtraction in the total number of electrons on the outermost shell, and this reaction releases energy in the form of heat. However, in the nuclear thermal rocket, the reaction goes deeper. It is the nucleus and not the outer shell that is involved in the reaction. This process annihilates the nanomass of the nucleus into an unfathomable amount of energy. In fact, some science enthusiasts suggest that a spoonful of table salt contains energy enough to power a household for a lifetime. That sounds mind-boggling, doesn't it? Then you begin to understand how nuclear power rockets will reduce the size of rockets as well as double or triple its payload. Ever since SpaceX began its space trips, attaining to Mars has been their ambitious goal. But Mars is not somewhere around the corner. To cruise the 40.2 million miles that separates Earth from Mars on board the Falcon 9 rocket would take no less than 9 months. This distance would even be difficult for present-day rocket technology. You must have a fully working fuel station on Mars to hopefully accomplish a to and fro tour else. Any attempt would be nothing less than suicide. But that seems not to hold back Elon Musk in his quest for Mars. He has another machine. The Starship rocket system being developed by SpaceX that is said to be capable of reaching Mars in a manned flight. The giant rocket is 3.7 meters in diameter and 120 meters in height, the tallest of all rockets so far. The rocket system consists of Super Heavy Thruster and on the upper stage the spacecraft Starship. The Super Heavy Thruster will be powered by 33 of its most powerful next-generation engines known as the Raptors. How about the payload? According to SpaceX, the rocket system is capable of lifting to space up to 100 metric tons of cargo. This will doubtless be a historic rocket system that will accomplish much more than anything before it. And the Starship is set for even more accomplishment when finally Elon Musk switches to the rocket's power system from chemical to nuclear power. Some sources allege that instead of the expected nuclear fission chemistry, another method will be used known as the aneutronic fusion, which will use lithium and deuterium to produce helium and nuclear energy. Then the journey to the moon would take a little under 3.5 hours. A journey to Mars, instead of 9 months, you will enter the atmosphere of the red planet in just 4 days. And this will be accomplished without even exhausting a fraction of the nuclear energy on board, meaning that there's a possibility that manned flights could be extended to even beyond Mars to other planets. And would not the solar system turn into another global village? Space tourism would be a norm. The moon would become the center of operations, a kind of space station. The spacecraft would operate more like the intercontinental jets, a 3.5-hour flight to the moon with some passengers. Let them off on the moon, and then take some other passengers back to Earth. Then pick up some more and head back to the moon, such that every day would have about 4 trips to and from the moon. This sounds too good to be true, but these are the prospects that a nuclear rocket presents. How about Mars? Since it would take about 5 days to reach Mars, there could be 1 trip to Mars every 21 days. Once there, you will have your 10 days on the red planet before another team arrives with the spacecraft and you can be brought back to Earth. Besides space travel, the nuclear thermal rockets could eventually find their way into the aircraft industry. Low-cost energy could be the means of reducing carbon emissions in the sector, which is lately fighting for the top position as the worst emitter of greenhouse gases. The jet fitted with this nuclear system would be super fast. On board these jets, perhaps London could be as far as 30 minutes from Washington, D.C. But with the wild, amazing prospects also comes some serious drawbacks. To begin with, while using a nuclear-powered rocket, there is a big risk of having a fatal accident. The immense concentration of energy in a small space presents a real danger to the crew on board. Humans do err, and in case that happens and some leakage occurs, or perhaps even something worse like an engine breakdown, as witnessed in some chemical rocket launches, then that would detonate the radioactive substance on board and the results would be catastrophic, not only to the crew but also to the officers in the space station. And such accidents will question the safety of nuclear energy and could trigger a ban altogether. However, as a safety measure, the nuclear thermal power would never be used in the Earth to orbit launches, but will only be engaged when the rocket has reached a safe distance of the ISS, just as Musk in a tweet said this. To be clear, is good for space transit, but not recommended for Earth to orbit. Another drawback is radiation danger. Already the deep space is choking with an immensely high level of radiation, and if you would couple that with the radiation emanating from the spacecraft, then the crew would be in danger of the effects of too much radiation. But according to Elon Musk, the faster travel times would more than solve the problem. Another glaring danger is poisoning. The chemicals used in nuclear reactors such as the plutonium and the uranium are highly biohazard. Besides being carcinogenic, it is said that a millionth gram of plutonium is enough to poison a couple of tens of people. Therefore, the handling of these chemicals isn't something that can be left to chance. The final setback of using a nuclear rocket is that it is very expensive. Despite offering cheaper and reliable alternative sources of energy, the setting up of the manufacturer plant for the nuclear rocket systems is extremely costly. Not just that, even the personnel employed to manage the plant or handle the product at any level must be highly skilled. Scientists from around the world agree that the SpaceX nuclear rocket is unrivaled in the space industry. No wonder the entire space industry was shocked when Elon revealed the insane and new nuclear rocket. Anyways guys, if you want to see more interesting videos, click the video right above. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe with all notifications enabled so you don't miss out on the latest Elon Musk news.